Sir Reginald Hargreaves, also known as the Monocle, is a world-renowned scientist, wealthy entrepreneur, inventor, Olympic gold medalist, Nobel Prize winner, and oh, sorry, that one's a big spoiler, but we'll get to that in a few minutes. Sir Reginald Hargreaves is the central driving force of the Umbrella Academy show and comic book series, and despite being dead at the beginning of each, Hargreaves sets in motion the events that would unfold throughout space and time. Now, before we get into today's video on Reggie, we wanted to let you guys know that we are doing a giveaway. Thank you guys so much for your continued support on the channel. We want to give away a few copies of Umbrella Academy Volume 1 to show our appreciation. So to enter to win that, all you have to do is follow us on Twitter, subscribe, and comment below who your favorite Umbrella Academy character is. Links are below in the comment section. Pretty simple. Now, back to the sweet comic book knowledge you came here for. So if you haven't gotten to at least episode 9 of Umbrella Academy Season 2, you might want to come back and watch this video after, because what I'm about to tell you is a pretty big spoiler for Reginald's past. Not much is known about Reginald Hargreaves before he came to Earth. And yes, you heard that right, he came to Earth. Hargreaves is an alien from space. After arriving on Earth and before forming the Umbrella Academy, Reginald spent his time devoted to advancing the planet through business and science. As mentioned previously, he won a Nobel Prize for his work in the cerebral enhancement of chimpanzees. The cognitive expansion of these primates has allowed them to enter society and carry on human-like lives. Throughout the series, we see the results of his work through other chimpanzees like Pogo, his right-hand man, and many others like Bodhi, who works as a detective for the local police force, Merlin, who is a member of Klaus's platoon during Vietnam. Heck, there are even stripper chimps. Thank you for that, Reginald. I think Five's face says it all. Now, stop me if you've heard this part before, but 30 years before the beginning of the series, 43 children were born to women around the world, all of whom had not shown any signs of pregnancy before that day. After learning of this, Reginald set out to adopt as many as he could, and he was able to obtain 7 of them. As for why he adopted the children, he gave one answer: to save the world. Although no one knew from what, at least not at the time. These children became known as, shockingly, the Umbrella Academy. Hargreaves would then wipe all identity from the children and label each with a number instead of a name. He would spend the next decades training these children, helping them hone their abilities, and eventually tasked them with various missions to prevent worldwide devastation. Reginald did not really raise the children as a father, despite the fact that they all refer to him as Dad, even though he explicitly tells them not to. He treats them as science experiments, as specimens to be cataloged and studied. He even refers to number 3 as a quote-unquote creature. Although he did have his favorite, number 1, this was due to one's desire to please Hargreaves. Luther would do anything for his father, and Hargreaves took advantage of that fact. His detailed notes on the children shows us just how apathetic he really was. Shortly after 5 disappeared, he wrote in his journal that it was no great loss, but this may have been because 5 kind of trolled his father in front of their guests earlier, but, you know, it could have just been anything. He felt that number 2 was an insolent brat who was mostly useless, number 3 was insufferable and narcissistic, number 4 was fretful and morbid, and Hargreaves spent time training him so hard that he was broken entirely and had no emotions left by the time he was a teenager. Hargreaves was nauseated by number 6, but took advantage of his naive nature to manipulate him into subservience. As for number 7, he feared her power so much that he drugged her entire life to suppress her power. He spent his time degrading her worth and very existence so she would never suspect that she had any unique abilities. After 10 years of training the children, Hargreaves began sending them out on various missions. They stopped multiple supervillains like Zombie Gustav Eiffel, Dr. Terminus, the Murder Magician, John Perseus, Obscura, yada yada yada. Usually after a successful mission, Reginald would treat the kids to ice cream. After all, he isn't a monster, he's just a space alien. As you all know, before the comic book series begins, Reginald is dead. Neither the comics nor the show explain how he met his end, but his death is the driving factor for the siblings to reunite. Some, like Luther, still idolize their father and yearn to earn his approval in the afterlife. Others, like Diego, don't really care that he passed away. And despite the fact that he is dead before the series begins, his presence can be felt in everything that the team does. As he really only appears in flashbacks or in nightmares, there isn't a ton of information about what Hargreaves has done throughout his life, but here is what we know. He built and operated an interdimensional prison housed in a pocket dimension called the Hotel Oblivion. The hotel is guarded by a mysterious being known as the Scientific Man, who somewhat resembles Dr. Manhattan in appearance and abilities. Reginald also discovered Afterspace, a region of space that is completely brand new. It's constantly renewing itself and does not abide by the laws of physics. Within the Afterspace, Hargreaves discovered a being known as Stella, who he apparently cared for very deeply. We don't know much about this character, but going off of what we've seen in the show, Stella might have been Mother at one point, who was eventually repurposed to care for the children. He built a spaceship capable of interstellar travel and afterspace travel called the Minerva, which we think might appear in Season 3. As we all know, his nickname is the Monocle, but this isn't just because he wears the monocle. The monocle also has specific tech built inside of it that makes him somewhat of a superhero himself. It gives him a sort of precognition. In the comics, it's described as the Hargreaves monocle, and it shows you things, shows you what someone really is. When Five looked through it, he was able to see the vast experimentation that Reginald conducted on Pogo. The shock of the experimentation was so drastic that it caused Five to pass out. The same monocle also showed them that Vanya was the white violin and was capable of destroying the world. Klaus, otherwise known as the Seance, was unable to ever channel his father successfully. He had said that Reginald was just too stubborn, even in death, to provide support. He was, however, able to fake a channeling that was so convincing that it fooled Vanya. He also invented the Televator, a device that looks like an elevator but functions as a teleportation device throughout space and time. The team regularly uses this throughout the series to go from place to place. He also eventually met with the president to discuss nuclear codes and was eventually given these. These codes were then later used by Hazel and Cha-Cha to blow up the Earth entirely. Finally, Hargreaves invented Mother, a robotic life form that took care of the children, as he did not have any appetite for such things. Mother would remain a central figure of the comic book series and eventually introduces Vanya to the Sparrow Academy, which Hargreaves likely had a hand in as well. And that's pretty much it for Reginald Hargreaves. He affects the children deeply throughout the series. They're always talking about him, thinking of him, having nightmares about him. But his past remains mostly a very intriguing mystery. We think that the showrunners have identified that there is a lot more that could be and should be done with the character. He's incredibly influential, super mysterious, and overall really cool. I'm glad that they're taking time to work on fleshing him out in the show. But what do you guys think? Are you interested in learning more about Reginald Hargreaves, or would you rather just continue on with the children? Let us know down in the comments below what you think about that and who your favorite character is, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter and subscribe to enter into the giveaway. Thanks again for watching, everyone, and remember the motto, it's the monocle over everything, and I'll see you guys next time.